When you get access to self, you get access to immense reservoir of energies in us. We all have that access. When you have that access, it's unlimited energy. And we have only 24 hours in the day that we can compartmentalize. So better to try to get access to unlimited self than to try to figure out how to control a part of our lives that mostly it's an illusion.
Hello, High Vibin It homies. Welcome back to another amazing episode of your favorite podcast, High Vibin It. We are here to help you live your best life, raise your vibration, cut through those blockages, get your energy right. And today, our guest is going to help you do just that too. His name is Ricardo Sunderland. He is a CEO and leadership coach. He is author of The Energy Advantage, How to Go from Managing Your Time to Mastering Your Energy. And for anyone watching the video, we have it right here. It's a beautiful yellow sunshiny book to match his sunshiny last name. And it helps leaders to align with basically like their highest potential in all areas of life. So we're really excited to talk about it and talk to you, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you, Lindsay, so much. Looking forward to our conversation and inspiring your audience.
Yes. And you mentioned before we hit record that a lot of times you run into this, I don't know if you'd call it an obstacle, but maybe where it's business and spiritual. And we were very quick to tell you we're mostly spiritual. In fact, I'm interested about the business aspect of it because most of our guests are very spiritual and like, well, just live your best life and here's how we do that. But I love that you are very focused on like merging the two practical 3D objective based world with like, hey, but you can also do it in a good way that makes you feel good and actually helps society as a whole. So I'm very excited to talk about that, and I'm very happy that you are doing what you're doing. I think we need more of you. If you could get on cloning yourself, that'd be great. But first, let's talk about how did you get into this work? Did you start out in the business world? Did you start out in the spiritual world and then merge the two? Like what's going on? What's your story?
Thank you. I started as a banker, actually. I started as a banker, and as I grew through the chain of command, ended up being a CFO of a bank. And I did that for about 9 years, and then ended up doing consulting work, systems integration and strategy. Did that for another 11 years at a top 5 consulting firm. So never in my wildest dreams would I, thought that I would be actually doing what I do today. I connect the hearts, the heads, and the souls of some of the biggest leaders in the world, and it is a privilege. I got into this by joining the firm that I work today. It's a firm named Egon Zender. I've been at the firm for about 17 years now. Most of what we do is executive search. So I actually started to explore understanding people's connections on heart and soul. I started to experience how energy flows in the system and how to get energy that's stuck in leaders by trying to help them build their teams. They were wishing to build innovative teams, creative teams. So they asked me to hire a lot of people that actually could do that for them. And however, the more I hired, the more they got rejected. So I got a big moral conflict because I thought maybe I wasn't wrong, or my candidates were wrong, or my clients had something that they needed to change. And I realized that was the latter. So I gained the courage to ask my clients that they needed a change in order for them to be able to lead their organizations to change. And half of them kicked me out of their office. And the other half said, you're right. I need to change. Help me change. And then I got into an interesting challenge, because in order to be able to help people change, you first need to change yourself. And I became a seeker about 12, 13 years ago, and I was very lucky because a few of my colleagues became seekers too. We hired a really fascinating firm. Their name is Mobius. And through them, we were able to get very interesting sieges experts that allowed us to be able to start to bring unconsciousness to consciousness. Started to realize that we were living in beautiful and ignorance, and it was bliss. But the more that we got connected and consciousness to consciousness, we realized that the more energy we got, the more we could be able to learn that I didn't know who I was, and I started to learn more who I wanted to be and who I was. And I started to experiment with my clients, and that was about a decade ago. And by now, I probably coached more than 250 of the biggest leaders of the most recognizable brands out there. Um, and it's been a journey again of helping them connect their heads, their hearts, and their souls. After learning that the way to doing it is by getting myself out of the way, by being able to get my story out of the way, become this hollow bamboo, and then host through it their own journeys, their own stories. And that's how we started to get into it. And then one started to talk to the other, and then to the other, and then that's how I got the courage to write the book, because I felt that it took me 10 years to get there. And many of my clients started to ask me, where were you 20 years ago? So the intention is to be able to have leaders, people who aspire to become leaders, and that 10 or 20 years from now will read the book and help them shift their mindset that it is about mastering your energy, not about compartmentalizing your time. And that's how it all started, and how it got me to, the courage to get to that place. I hope I'm answering your question, Lindsay.
Beautifully and perfectly. You hit so many points, and I know Kelsey and I have so many more questions, so I'm gonna let you go first, Kels. It just crops up so much cool stuff.
I mean, my first thing that I want to ask, because obviously not everyone in their daily life gets to work with these high achieving individuals. So I'm just curious, behind the curtain, the people who were on board with it, were they still oh, this sounds kind of woo, this sounds kind of weird, I'm not that spiritual, but I'm open to it? Or were they yeah, let me get my energy on board? Were they already in sort of a self-development mindset of energy and spirituality? Does my question make sense?
Yeah, it makes tons of sense. I mean, as you can imagine, at the beginning, I couldn't declare that openly that I was going to gain coherence between head, heart, and soul. Now I do. Now I do. We always got there. CEOs, all these big leaders, they have three things in common. They are very bright. They've all have big struggle in their lives. That's where the resilience comes from. That's where the expansive capacity of holding massive challenges in organization comes from. There's something really interesting. The third thing is life is calling more from them. There is a spiritual calling in all of them. Otherwise, why? Because, there's many bright people. There's many bright people with struggle, and not everyone's a CEO. Not everyone gets to the top of the house. So there's something that is larger than life, which I call the mystery of life, that if you are to connect to it, then you start to stop asking yourself, why me? And you start asking yourself, who am I to ask myself, why me? And you start to find your place in the universe. So of course, at the beginning, I couldn't go there because I would have probably been kicked out of the office again. But now my clients, they openly talk to each other. All of these leaders, they're incredibly successful and not necessarily fulfilled. And what they're longing for is they're longing to be able to reconnect to a part of their life back when they were in their 20s. And if they can connect to that part and at the same time be successful, and wouldn't that be something? And it's very difficult to be able to do it just with thinking and doing. Creating a bridge to the feeling and the being is where you can gain courageous hearts to allow for you to be able to be, all these four things: thinking, doing, feeling, and being at the same time. Yeah.
That makes sense. Thanks for giving us a little peek behind the curtain, because I'm curious. Let's talk about the main premise of the book, moving from managing our time to mastering our energy. What is the energetic shift or the mindset shift that has to happen first, on that journey?
Yeah, we're asking for our friends,
Yeah.
not for us,
Yeah.
but for people that may need this.
Sure.
Just kidding. I need this. Tell me, Ricardo.
As you can imagine, where do you start? I mean, many of the leaders, as I share, they're incredibly good at thinking and doing. But when you shut your emotions, if you believe that, for example, vulnerability is weakness, and you believe that, and you do that, 16 hours a day for 30 years of your life, you're actually numbing your system. And when you numb your system, it's what they start to call this elephant skin. And it's real. It's your ability to connect to frequency uh, numbs. So you need to start to relearn how to feel your body, how to feel emotions in your body, how to feel the energy in your body. So I start doing a lot of breath work and exercises and practices that allow for all these leaders to start to reconnect that energy awareness that we all had when we were born. We were born, as Gabor Mate says, with our hearts completely full and our heads completely empty, and then life happened to us. The same thing happened to all of them. And then you start to disconnect to this energy awareness. You need to relearn your ability to feel the energy in your body, so that when you do, then you start to know what part of the energy is stuck in you and what flows. And there's energy giving and frequencies, and there are energy taking frequencies. You need to get attuned into your body first to do that. And there's other elements that I share in the book that once you start to really feel those energies in your body, and then where anger lives in your body, and love feels in your body, and gratefulness, and sadness, and you start to then integrate these parts, for example, to allow experiences of love of self. You don't know how much is the gap of love of self until you're able to feel it. You can think about it, but the mind plays tricks on you in so many ways, but your body would always speak your truth. So when you do, you start to connect to a part in you that by feeling it, you know how much the gap is, and you start to do exercises that by applying compassion, for example, to yourself, you start to close that gap. And by closing the love self gap, you start to gain greater degrees of confidence. With greater degrees of confidence, greater clarity of thought comes, and then the mental energy starts to get centered along with the emotional and with the physical. When you center your physical, your mental, your emotional, you get access to self. When you get access to self, you get access to immense reservoir of energies in us. We all have that access. When you have that access, it's unlimited energy. And we have only 24 hours in the day that we can compartmentalize. So better to try to get access to unlimited self than to try to figure out how to control a part of our lives that mostly it's an illusion. Yeah.
Did you know that this show is 100% self-produced and made possible by listener support? If you love the show and want to help us keep bringing you all the good stuff, join our Patreon. Your support helps us cover editing, software, and everything we need to keep this podcast going and growing strong.
As a Patreon member, you'll unlock amazing perks like early access to every episode, extended video content, behind the scenes footage, and more. And the best part, if you're one of the next 100 people to join, you'll get our exclusive manifestation toolkit valued at over $100 as soon as we hit our goal of 100 patrons. Head to patreon.com/highvibe to join, and we'll see you inside.
You up this?
The few pats.
They're speaking our language for
Yeah.
sure. Like both on this podcast and in our own individual practices, Kelsey and I we might as well have megaphones. Like, get to know yourself. Then you can love yourself. Then you can see the limitless possibilities that, like that's when everything bursts open.
Yeah.
It's like so simple, and yet
Yes.
one of the hardest things for some of us that we ever have to do.
Well, and the message of feeling your feelings to lead you closer to yourself and to, I call it like one of the highest forms of self-love is to hold space for yourself no matter what you're feeling in your body, no matter how uncomfortable, no matter how intense, no matter the sensation, right? And it's like that practice. I think a lot of times in spiritual teachings, it's like we think to be enlightened is to like not have feelings, not have reactions, to not be in our body. And it's like literally the opposite. Like you have to go in to access that reservoir of energy like you're talking about. So I'm just
Yeah.
happy to have yet another person on the podcast to tell the people feeling is healing. Amen.
Feeling is healing.
Really, it's a wisdom teacher. Why do leaders of the world cannot have access to healing practices? So it's in a way, it's a bridge of the healing practice into being able to engage it as a transformational coaching practice, and leaders can be whole. And from that place, the world could be a better place.
Ugh. We just did an episode about manifesting our ideal version of like new earth and like what that would look like, what we would envision for society. And you should have been on that episode, actually. We should do another one.
Imagine every leader of the world becoming a coherent antenna, and it creates a field that you don't need millions of leaders. Use a few thousand that from that place of immense power, you can create from the right place a field that elevates consciousness in humanity.
Dang.
Yes.
Now, I know you talk a lot, you deal a lot with CEOs and these big business minds and leaders of the world, but the more you talk, it really does sound like this is a book. Like, let's say for Kelsey and I in our practices, if we find ourselves stuck in a spot and we're like, why can't I get over this hump? Or why am I, stuck at this level? There's a lot in here that would allow us to investigate that. So I love that you have it from the experience of like, these are the top leaders of the world. However, this is accessible for everyone, no matter what. If they want to be the best that they can be, read your book. I love it.
Yeah. I got so frustrated by when I was doing all these research over the years. There's a lot of books that tell you what to do. Some might even tell you why you have to do what you need to do. Very little do the how. Very little do the how because they're scared of going into charged territory. And we need to believe that there's a part inside of us that has immense wisdom, that we allow to gain, when we allow to gain access to it, we become medicine. Now, we do need to have allies, and I know that, which is why in the book, when I am in different practices, when you get stuck, find an ally. And I point to many different resources where you can just go and reach out to all these different places. You can do family constellation work and go to the Bert Hellinger group. You can do IFS work, go to the, the Schwartz, IFS, foundation. I mean, there's many angles where you can look for resources that can get the place that it's unstuck, and you can continue your path, because not many people can afford me as their ally, but I wanted to pay it forward, which is why it took me 3 years to write a book that hopefully many people can self-coach with the support of some allies. If you get stuck, and look, if you get stuck and you don't have the means in the meantime to go and find the resources, at least your journey is on its way. And it should be open architecture. It shouldn't be held just for a few, which was why I wanted to share it. And you're right. The leaders of the world gave me permission, 20 of them gave me permission to share their story. But it's also, they did it because they know that it works for all the people within their organizations. And it's almost like creating a beautiful hook where it's if this thing worked for these 20 leaders or these 9 leaders that declare in the back cover, maybe it's worth reading it. Yeah, my dream is for many people that not necessarily are big leaders in the world will read it and will benefit from it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of a good book. Here for the accessibility of the information and reaching as many people as you can, because obviously there's only one of you. Not everyone has the time or the energy or the money maybe to work with you right now. So it's like you can do it right here through this magical book called The Energy Advantage. So I'm just pointing to it again on the video for anyone who's watching. I want to ask you about energy blockers versus energy givers, which I know you talk more about in the book, but maybe we could just dive in and converse a little bit about what are some of the biggest blockages and some of the biggest allies, to borrow your word, for creating and producing more energy.
I mean, some of the biggest energy blockers, let's go about when I mean emotional energy, what I mean about it. So an energy blocker from an emotional point of view, it's anger, it's grief, it's guilt, it's shame, If you even measure its frequency, neuroscientists right now are measuring it in a way that even your mood will go so low if you stay in a frequency of shame or guilt. There's a lot of studies around it. Now, it's interesting because you were mentioning it is, then let's not feel them. No, if you feel grief, grief is the path to joy. You cannot get to joy unless you feel grief. It's going to feel at the beginning like it's blocking your energy because it feels unstuck. But if you're able to integrate it, you will be able to transcend it, and it connects into immense joy. And joy leads to dreaming. Dreaming to it creates immense creativity. It is good business. So it is ways to be able to connect these pieces. Important not to stay in guilt or shame, and the roots of those are important to identify. If you follow what takes you to guilt, you're probably going to find the deep root and the wound that ultimately it's making you carry some of these emotions that get the energy stuck. The energy givers, then it's love, it's bliss, it's joy. We need to be careful because sometimes love, and I share it in the book, has immense light and is the energy that moves all of us. But it's also the emotion that creates the biggest blocks in us. When we have heartbreaks, many times they feel so existential that we don't want to feel them ever again, depending on which moments in our life we felt it, when we wanted it and we needed it and we didn't get it. So it's important to know that sometimes these emotions, they'll have a light and they'll have a shadow. When we're on the light side of them, we can create immense energy. And when we're not, it can block energy away. How it feels and how we feel it and how we use it, very, very important. And there's two protective systems that allow us to be able to do it, as the fear system and the belief system. One is more mental than the other, but when we update our belief systems, it creates immense access in our ability to feel. Like if you believe that vulnerability is strength rather than weakness, you have immense access to both your emotions and to other people's emotions. Updating that takes a lot of courage. Fears, and on the other hand, integrating into it is also very important. So these are the kind of the protective systems, the balancing systems that we need to experiment with, so that we can feel more of these energies, and that we can name them, feel them, integrate them, and use them by choice. Yeah.
Yeah, I always say that there's two very different experiences to any one experience. It's like, let's say fear or guilt or shame is coming up. It's not bad that it has come up, right? It's like, what are you going to do with it now? Are you going to get curious and feel it in your body and integrate it and explore it and let it pass through without resistance? Or are you going to be like, no, just stay positive. I can't be in this low vibrational state. This is too uncomfortable. I don't have the time. I'm not willing, and then you're just literally closing yourself off, not just to your emotional body, not just to yourself, but to possibility. Because if you're in resistance to your feelings, you're just in resistance, period. You're not going to have the great ideas. You're not going to be in energetic alignment. You're not going to be manifesting your best life from a place of closed energy, even if you're thinking, I'm only closed to my grief right now, right? It's like that tricky little mind that's like, oh, well, I could or I couldn't. But we're telling you, if you go there, and if you're scared to go there, work with a practitioner like myself or Lindsay or Ricardo. Like, there are people out there that can help you through your feelings in your body, because on the other side, I've noticed in my work, people always come to a space of some degree of relief. And from there, that just opens you up to all sorts of realms of possibility. And then those feelings of love, gratitude, appreciation, expansion, energy, having more energy, all starts to come through your body vessel.
Well, I agree completely. And also want to remind everyone, the reason, as Kelsey said, people feel relief is because when you shove it down, you're not feeling it. It's not gone. So it's still there, and it's still there. And it's like a dull ache on some level. So you're not getting rid of anything. You're not feeling anything. You're just not allowing yourself to process it in a healthy way so that you can move past it. So I just want to remind, if you think that you're getting away with something, you're not. So you might as well just feel it and heal it.
And it's going to manifest, unfortunately, sometimes
Exactly.
dramatically in illness, and it's very risky to do it. We don't know that
We don't
consciously.
know. I
Yeah.
can't remember which guest it was, but it was like somebody akined it to like a toddler tugging on you. And I had a toddler at the time. So I was like, yes, it is. It's like first it's going to say mommy, and then you don't listen. And then it's going to tap you, and then you don't listen. And it's going to yank on your skirt, and you don't listen. And then it's just going to scream in your face. So it's like-
And ruin your life.
and then your whole day is wrecked. So listen.
Yeah, whatever you exclude, whatever you resist is going to persist, and whatever you integrate is going to transcend. It's difficult, but it is real. Yeah.
And it's worth it. 100%.
Oh, totally, so much worth it. Yes.
I think this is a good segue to move into the theme of authenticity and living more authentically. Because I know in the book you touch on like people almost living like two different lives or like two different personalities, and how that's such like a energy waster. It's like very exhausting to be like that. So can you speak a little bit more to just being your whole self and living more authentically?
Yeah, I mean, in the book, one of the things that I talk about is how people believe that there's this compartmentalization between the person and the professional. After coaching all these people, I coach their families too. What does this mean? I have conversation with their partners, spouses, kids, and I ask them, what gives your partner, your dad, your mom energy? What takes it away? And 100% of them will tell me what takes energy away from them is work. So you have this belief that you're at home and that you even carry this, badge of honor that, I can separate profession and home. And all your kids know when you're had an, horrible day at job and they don't want to get in the way. They know that you're physically there, but mentally and emotionally, you're completely out, which is worse for them. So at the end of the day, we need to start to realize that there's no such thing as this compartmentalization. There's always going to be spillover. I do the same with their teams. I ask them, what takes energy away, and they'll say home. I know when they've had a bad day at home, and you don't want to get in the way anyway. So why waste this time on splitting personalities if we can just live ourselves anytime, anywhere? We need to update our belief systems. It's going to be very helpful to really start to integrate both the professional and the personal persona, and start to realize that this thing of authenticity, it can be a straitjacket if you don't allow yourself to experiment. It is a fluid thing.
Hey there, it's Lindsay. Are you ready to transform your life and achieve your biggest dreams? Well, welcome to the Align Your Mind membership. As a seasoned hypnotherapist, I've crafted a digital sanctuary where you can access powerful hypnotherapy audios anytime, anywhere. Imagine waking up each day feeling empowered, confident, connected to the universe, and ready to conquer your goals. With AYM, you'll experience deep, long-lasting transformations in every area of your life. If you're ready to rewire your mind, release what's holding you back, and start living your dreams, don't wait any longer. Just click the link in the episode description and start embodying your highest potential today.
If you allow yourself to experiment and, for example, start believing that you can be yourself anytime, anywhere, yeah, at the beginning it's going to feel a little bit awkward if you are a little bit more vulnerable at work or a bit more professional at home. But if you give yourself a break and you're compassionate with yourself, it's not going to be perfect at the beginning. It's going to feel awkward, right? When you start to learn how to dance, you have to count the steps. Then you flow with the music, and then you're dancing. So this concept of authenticity starts to be a little bit of an anchor in our minds because we want to show up authentic. Well, what if authenticity means that you just need to show up fluid, that you give yourself a break, that you start to really, allow yourself to fail every once in a while. And at the same time, you start to experience what a better version of yourself looks like anytime, anywhere. When you are in that place, when you're in this really authentic place, when there's no masks or shields or professional or personal personas, you have access to immense energy. There's no energy waste. And that's when you are really authentic, when you can be yourself anytime, anywhere. It takes time, takes practice, updating your belief system, being in holding yourself, because sometimes you're afraid of what people are going to think of you. especially if you've got a coach. It's like, oh, now you had your coach, now you want to show up differently. And um, no, we are who we are, and giving ourselves permission to be. That's really who, what authenticity means for me. Yeah.
Well, that took about 12 years, but that's the validation I needed. When I first started my practice with hypnotherapy, they're like, you have to wear the suit jacket and you have to have the name tag and all the things that point to me as the authority, which is good when you're trying to get a good relationship with the client. However,
Yeah.
this whole like, don't bring yourself into the room and stay stoic. And I just couldn't do it, man. And I noticed that when I stopped doing that or let myself kind of enter the room little by little with the client, my practice exploded. Of course it did, because everything was in alignment and people like me.
Yes.
And they hire me and they don't hire some person stuffed into a suit jacket.
Yes.
That's not me.
Absolutely. And when it was incredibly good business for you, because your mindset was not to do it from a commercial point of view. Your mindset was, I want to take care of myself. And when you take care of yourself, like-minded people
Yes.
are going to connect with you. Many people don't hire me, but these are people that don't gravitate to the way that I could be able to offer to them. Good for them, good for me. And then, others will hire me for what I could be able to offer them, but I don't put much effort on it.
Yeah.
Just being you, and you can manifest many things from that place.
And that's not to say there wasn't a lot of like trepidation or apprehension when
Oh,
it
no,
came
no,
to like
sure.
taking off
Totally.
that mask. Because I was like, what if I don't get any clients? Of course you're gonna think that we're human beings. But you're absolutely right. When I gave myself permission to let the universe give me like-minded people, to let my clients come to me rather than me just fitting every cookie cutter or whatever. That is the key. I'm glad that you said that.
I love what you say, because many of my clients, when they have this opportunity to take the shield down, it's like a binary thing. It's like, oh my, I'm going to take the whole shield. No, make a permeable shield.
Yeah.
Start with a dialer. Think of it, 10 is totally up, down, 1 is totally down.
Yeah.
Start with a 7, it's 6, 5, see how this feels like. And then you start to give yourself permission as to where you feel comfortable. Shields there for a reason. Shields are there also for a reason. You cannot give all the time everything to someone that is not willing or ready to receive. So you need to put certain filters even for their own good. So they're there. How to use them by choice, that's the power.
Yeah. I love it.
This teaching that I really love is coming to me. It's something that I heard. I think it was Teal Swan, and she was saying, actually, people don't need as much alone time as they think they need. Like, as a species, we could be always like connected with each other, but the reason why we feel like we need so much alone time is because we're not authentic and we don't have the right relationships in our lives where we feel safe enough to be authentic. So it's like exhausting to be this other person or put on this mask or have your walls up all the time around all these different people. And then you're just like, oh, I need to be alone, because that's the only time when you feel like you can be totally yourself. Whereas this approach would be, let's create those relationships and connections where you can be yourself. Let's practice being more of ourselves in more context to the degree that we can. And from there, you won't be exhausted of everyone, because you won't be putting on a different mask in all these different areas of your life.
Totally. Fully relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was good when she said that. I was like, ooh, because some people are like, oh, I need so much alone time. And I'm like, do you, or do you just need more authenticity? Do you need better friends? I don't know.
I will add one addendum to that, is like after the holidays, it's just, you do need alone. I do. I need to hibernate after Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's a
Recharge.
The end. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I do need a lot of alone time, but there's a part of, to your point of the recharge. There's also a lot of collective unconsciousness that when you give yourself space to be able to connect to, it also incredibly nurturing, and you are with many people, even though you are not there with people. So it's just how you experience life and allow yourself to be able to experience universal life. It has different facets. Yeah.
Speaking of different facets, can we talk about the alignment of the head and the heart and
Yes.
creative power, as you like to say? Because I think this is so relatable to people in any area of life because it can feel
Yeah.
so hard. Like, let's say someone wants to manifest love and they're like, my head says this person, but my heart says
Yeah.
this person. Or like, my head says F dating and my heart says, like, I want a partner. Or in business, you know, like this business idea feels like, you know, the one coming from my heart, but like this business idea seems like the one that will make more money. So, like, which one do I do? And how do you like reconcile the two? So, I would love to hear whether it's a practice or a mindset shift that you do to help yourself or help people just connect and align the head, heart, and creative.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful question. So I learned this from one of my sage friends, Scott Cody, rest in peace. When he was coaching me on this through Indian American traditions, one of the things that he experienced was you center your mind through silence, you center your body through breathing, and you center your emotions through acceptance. When you're able to center these three energies, then you'll get immense access to self. When you get access to self, that's where your full creative power is. So imagine you have quite clarity of thought. There's no friction emotionally. You're quite grounded. You're never 100% there, but if you are tuned to your frequency, it's like kind of like your radio station's quite aligned there. That's where your biggest creative power comes from. Um, so yes, aligning mind and heart, it's almost like really the alignment, what it does is it's getting out of the way so that when you get access to that deeper spark within all of us, that's where you can create immense things. It's magical. And whenever my clients get access to some of that place, which you wish to have constant access, but life gets in the way and you touch it, and it's like what I call being in the zone. I mean, there's many athletes who actually connect to that place for a minute and a half, and they can jump immense heights and run distances in record times that they're quite humanly possible. Same with creation. When you get to that place, there's ideas that can change and increase and build things that can heal, the way that we're treating our planet. So there's many ways where you can connect to that place. But from that place, there's immense wisdom, and everybody has a different way to creating, because we all have different stories and we all have different frequencies. But that's the way that I found that when you get access to that place, beautiful things happen.
Hmm. Amen to that. Here for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am a fan of alignment, and for anyone who's experienced it to any degree, you just know how juicy it
Yeah.
feels to drop into that space and just like be grounded but expanded at the same time.
Well, that's kind of one of the last questions I'm curious about, at least in the live show, and then we can go to the Patreon for more juicy questions. But the last one that I'm interested in is like, when was the first time that you really were like, oh my gosh, this is real, this is a thing, and look what just happened because I aligned my mind with my heart and soul?
Oh gosh,
I know.
the first thing that comes to mind is breath work. I was doing a holotropic breathing practice with a sage teacher, and then through going into this beautiful place, as DMT went through the roof onto my pineal gland, I was able to get all the way regressed back into in the womb experiences, and I experienced immense unconditional love. And from that moment, I realized I'm a good guy. If somebody doesn't love me, it's their problem. And a big part of my wound got healed on the spot. It was just once you feel it and you get access to it, you just know. I was really curious because she tried to get me to do another thing, and I was like, no, leave me here. I just want to experience this um, for a long period of time. So that's what comes to mind. It's as you go through life, yeah, beautiful people come along that give you the right thing at the right time, and when they do, and if you're open for it, you can find in beautiful places in you, and then your responsibility is to come back and share, and come back and come back to the tribe and share your treasures. Yeah.
Hmm.
And
That's
if someone
beautiful.
doesn't love you, it's their problem.
It's their
And it is their problem.
It is their problem. Yeah.
Look what they're missing out on.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, that almost made me cry. I can't believe I did that to myself. So much for that. That was so nice.
That's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This has been so fun. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to head over to the Patreon. So for anyone who forgot the name of the book, The Energy Advantage, go buy it if you're feeling called. It's amazing. Ricardo, you're awesome. Thank you for joining
Thank
us.
you.
Is there anything that
100% of the 100% of the proceeds will get donated. So
Yes.
so that way you're contributing as you buy the book. Thank you.
Oof.
Yes, which is amazing. Which, if you're on the Patreon, you would have already known that because you get to see behind the scenes footage, but not to pick favorites or anything. But yes, you will be helping charity and helping yourself and your life and getting your head and your heart and your creative power all on board and unblocking your energy and all the good things. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you would love to leave people with, Ricardo?
Oh, you just have a beautiful program, and the questions that you asked me are connecting both the healing arts and an intention to be able to help the audience. So it's just important to know that there's no distinction between the business world, the corporate world, the healing arts. We're all the same. We're all humans trying to drive as part of the cause elevation, some consciously, some very unconsciously, and that we just need to love each other, because from that place there is less polarization. From that place we can have deep arguments, and we can disagree heavily on those arguments, but from that place we will always grow, and it's not my way or the highway, and we need to grow from a place of love. So thank you.
Thank you. Well said. We will link to the book in the show notes. Is there anywhere else where people can find you? How can they work with you, connect with you?
Thank you. You can find me through LinkedIn on my name. I have also an Instagram page in Ricardo Sunderland 11, I think. And at the firm at Egon Zender, I'm a partner of the firm, and happy to help any way I can. I do appreciate that some people reach out to me because they want to be coached, which is why I wrote the book. But if there is a possibility, of course, I will if I can. But if not, the book's there to help. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for creating such a great resource and for sharing your time and your energy and your wisdom and your love and your heart with us. This has been such a beautiful episode. I loved it. For anyone who wants to continue the magic, you can head over to patreon.com/High Vibe. We're going to keep chatting for a few more moments over there. That's where you get extended video versions of every episode. You can comment on the episodes. You can interact with us.
Early access.
You get early access. Yes, you get early episodes and all that jazz. So join us over there. It's really fun. We love you guys, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. Thank you to everybody who has left a review and shared the podcast with friends and family. We super appreciate it. It really helps the show a lot.
You can further support the show by joining patreon.com/High Vibe to get exclusive content, extended episodes, bonuses, and more. Thanks again for listening. We love you so much, and we'll be back with another new episode. Bye.
Bye.